How are they building organizational capabilities to be able to meet with this demand or meet with this opportunity? So just going through last week's news of the DALL-E 3, the CHGPT is now visually seeing stuff, the new Meta glasses, the real-time translator for podcasts, the Tesla Optimus, the Copilot introduction, of course, the huge thing, Meta's big avatars, and the $4 billion investment to Claude or Anthropic by Amazon. This was just 1 week, right? So it's pretty clear that in AI, this is a tsunami of things coming up. And from the perspective of companies, this is trying to surf on a tsunami, right? It's pretty scary, gonna bring you a lot of speed if you can stay on top, but gonna wash you away if you're not. So I think that the one thing that arrived this year to organizations, that AI is a technology that is evolving or developing faster than we can deploy it on an organizational level. This has very far-reaching implications to organizations. Usually, what they're used to is that I map what is out there in the technological landscape. I try to find what's good for me, and then I implement, and then I'm happy. But with AI, by the time I implement, I should have implemented something else, because the whole thing evolved. So this kind of continuous adaptation, instead of implementing something, became a very big issue. And this is what I would like to discuss with you, because this has been around for very enlightened organizations a few years back already, but this is the year that it really brought home. So if we just look at these things from marketing, that how do we do with AI, content testing, segmentation or lookalike audience, programmatic, having a demand forecasting or creating a heat map from a store with AI, having mass customization or automated campaign management or brand management like visual branding, brand monitoring, or all of the recommendation systems, none of these had generative AI capabilities. Still, it was a very useful topic. I've been teaching this in Frankfurt School of Finance and Management for 6 years, that how AI is transforming business, and these are all the pre-ChatGPT era. So none of these needed generative AI, but still a lot of companies were struggling with how do I grasp the width of the opportunity. Most of the companies from the IT or RT department tried to grasp the depth. What is AI? How can I find developers to actually code something for me? How can I have a chief AI officer when I'm a bank? And then they soon realized that this is not the case. We have too many application potentials. We have too many ready-made products or potential components in my Azure platform or in my Amazon platform that I could just plug into my system. But the key organizational capability is to how to find the ones that matter for me, how to evaluate those that can I implement them, and then how to create the actual organizational receptiveness to live with those, which means skills, processes, structure, these kind of things. So what we experienced before the ChatGPT era already is that different kind of organizations have different kind of questions. When we taught this whole what is the AI thing, and then what the Google does, and then how Uber does it, and then what is the Amazon model, and these kind of things, everyone was very pumped up, super great, fantastic stories. And in the break, they came to me that, hey, we're a few billion euro manufacturing company. We are never going to be Google. So what is my journey? How can I progress with my organization? And I really understand that these Google guys can have all of the data, can have all of the talent, have their processes around talent acquisition, their open source models are for finding new people, but we're not that. So how can I progress further? So we saw different kind of questions. We saw that people who are saying that, oh, okay, I have just too many options. How do I start? Or there were people who started off and then started with POCs and then said, I have a lot of POCs going on, but they're not delivering return on investment. There are just too many. I started, it's not channeled, it's not processed. Or say, yes, I implemented some stuff and then said, we have developed an in-house solution. We see that this could potentially disrupt the market, but we're not doing it. How can I transform my organization into really living with the potential of developing something new that we have created? Or when we talked with more mature organizations, we realized that their problem is that, hey, we implemented a lot of stuff, but then a lot of new stuff are coming up. How can I create a new organizational model that is capable of this continuous adaptation, of building bridges to the ecosystem, to universities, to startups, that I know what is happening in real life, in real time, and am continuously able to adapt. So for this, we developed a model of AI, of organizational AI maturity. We defined 6 stages and 8 dimensions of how these organizations are evolving. It's very rare that we see that they're going all the way. We see that they're typically in one stage and would like to get to the next level. So usually we see that what they start with is experimenting with AI. That, okay, come on AI, you can show yourself that you're worth it. And I give you some space for proof of concept and show that it's great. But this is very limited. I am not changing my organization, my processes, to be able to live with the potentials, but I give you a little sandbox to play. This is where there was a client where we worked, they started saying that, okay, we have 50 ongoing projects going on in the organization across the world in AI implementation. I have no clue how to coordinate those. Okay, so this is the typical stage of experimenting with AI, that I just want to make it show itself that it can worth it. Then when we're past this stage and we realize that we have to put significant effort into a technology which happens to be AI, to transform ourselves so that we can live with the potential of artificial intelligence, that is the typical stage of implementing AI. Meaning that I am finding a domain, for example, customer service, and I start to rethink my processes because we have AI. Where is the slice where AI fits in? How can I rethink my processes because there is an opportunity to have artificial intelligence? How do I slice my processes that, yes, this is going to be a speech-to-text thing. This is going to be a categorization thing. This is going to be a replying thing. But then the whole idea, we have budget, we have people who are focusing on that thing. Then what we usually saw that after this stage, that yes, we implemented here, implemented it there, then we realized that this has just a lot more width, so much more potential. And then we go to the data-driven organization as a goal. That it shouldn't be just implemented in one space. We should have an infrastructure and a strategy and an organization to be able to serve all kinds of needs that are coming across the organization. That how am I going to serve if there is a new AI idea? That, hey, please, I have this idea of we should forecast sales with AI, or we should do predictive maintenance with AI. So this is just not one project. This is the width of projects that we still would have to serve. And there we really turn from individual implementations to a general serving system, both from infrastructure and from technology and AI technology and organizational side, that is going to be able to deliver these kind of things. And after this, that yes, we have this. Another layer is that when we say that, okay, this is constantly changing. So how do I keep ahead of the curve? How do I build bridges through the ecosystem so that I know what is going to happen? How do I find my right partners in universities, in startups? There is the co-opetition as a new concept emerging in this phase, that I know that I will have to collaborate with my competitors potentially to develop something new and create something interesting. And the final stage is the AI factory, which sometimes is not delineating from adaptive. It's just a spin-off from creating something as an AI tool. But I would like to give AI as a service for my clientele. In the other stages, I'm mainly using it for my internal efficiency gains. In the final stage, I redefine my business model because of AI. And we have defined 8 dimensions for technical and for organizational dimensions, because we saw that in a lot of AI implementation projects, there are a lot of things missing, and they're very much pushing to build AI, but they're not building the data capabilities. And then they're not understanding why it is not accelerating, but it is not yielding the benefits. Or I'm not building the culture or the skills or the structure. It's not implemented in the strategy. I don't allocate budgets to data. So what we saw is that we need a more holistic view on how you should approach AI in different layers, and then what to focus on. But the number one balance that you have to maintain is the organizational and the technological balance. That if you only focus on technology, then the organization is going to draw you back. If you only focus on upskilling and then strategy making, but you're not investing in technology, then it's not going to yield benefits. An important thing that we differentiated also is that we think that buying and building AI are 2 dimensions. In a lot of organizations, this is a dilemma. Should I build or buy? But we see that in bigger organizations, especially when you're maturing, it's becoming an end. What are the things that I should build? And then what are the things that I should buy? Because the number one risk in implementing AI with your own team is that you're reinventing hot water, a lot of hot water. We've seen this tremendous amount of times that now I have an AI team, so let's do some visual recognition capabilities. And then, hey, there's an API for that through Microsoft for this specific use case. You don't have to do that. And the capability of assessing the width is a very special organizational capability. And then evaluating how much am I letting it into my organization is a very strange architectural capability. So if I want to really live with the potential of buying AI, I have to have a microservice architecture where I can just replace one component with someone that created something better if I have this kind of API interface system. So just going through again from 3 dimensions. In the role of creation, I tend to buy at the beginning. I tend to build for myself in the implementation. I usually co-create in the adaptation phase, and I provide the AI technologies in the AI factory stage. In the infrastructure layer, usually this is a siloed. I don't care. This was built for supporting processes, not for supporting secondary data usage. Then in the implementation phase, usually I try to integrate everything. I don't to put it into one data warehouse or maybe data lake. But then I realize that data lakes are not going to serve me. I have to have some kind of a data mesh and a microservice architecture that is going to be a federated way of managing this thing. And then it's a totally different ball game to be able to provide a scalable architecture when I'm serving my clients with AI. And especially from the perspective of someone, a company that, hey, I have some great knowledge, domain knowledge in my industry. I would like to transform this domain knowledge into being an AI factory. And then just to know how much you have to do in order to become an AI factory is already a big thing. And then the main organizational capability, of course, it's experimentation, the capability of implementation, the continuous adaptation, and then leadership and innovation. And then for the 8 dimensions, all of them are broken down into sub-dimensions. For example, in the data interoperability is something that is heavily evolving as I'm going through the maturity phases. That first I don't care, then as I go up and up, first it's integration by force, and then made interoperability that, yeah, you have to comply. And then on a data mesh level, it's more like I create a federated policy of how to create interoperable data sets without having to integrate all of them. So it's a very exciting balance in all of the stages. And what I see, and just to give you the width, is that in this year, this really changed. Everyone that I met pre-CHGPT said that, okay, I want to start experimentation, find the things that I like or that might serve my efficiency needs. So I realized that I'm in an experimentation mode. Then I want to get to the data-driven organization mode. That sounds fancy. This year, this really changed, that I have to come to the adaptive organization stage. Even a bigger stretch, but definitely got the message home. ChatGPT really got the message home that by the time you implement it, it is going to change. So you have to come up with an organizational structure that can deal with this continuous implementation. So how did generative AI change the perception of AI from the organizational perspective? One, it seems that it's leveling the playing field. The scale of what you can implement became so much bigger that whoever was a forerunner previously is still very low, right? So now everyone on the big scale that came with generative AI, everyone, the really high levels are very low. Everyone then has to figure out what they can make of ChatGPT and the alike. But at the same time, the capability of experimentation and finding the new things and building the processes of evaluating the new technologies have remained a key capability. And now most of the organizations that I work with are struggling with building this capability. So again, the message that it's not really the technology that matters, it's the organizational capability. And since today, I think this is the first time in history where a technology that is very powerful is so widely available for everyone, almost the same level. Not that, okay, I know that this exists and then the other knows that that exists and I can develop something for myself. Nobody can develop a large language model, or very, very few people, but everyone can make benefit of that. So on one hand, it leveled the playing field. On the other hand, the organizational capability became a lot more important. So what I brought you today is that some kind of a summary of my experiences of how companies are getting started with implementing generative AI, especially ChatGPT kind of things. And I boiled it down to 3 big components: the technology, the process, and the skills that they have to develop. And one big thing that we ran into, which is the big red button problem. Just praising DALL-E 3 with a lot of hands and image generation capabilities. So what most people come to me is that they are already talking to Microsoft that they're bringing ChatGPT in-house. Very happy. Yes, we will have a ChatGPT that we can use, although there are a lot of ChatGPT kind of large language models. Of course, ChatGPT, even though it's 3.5, it's going to be more tempting than everything else. So a fenced version of ChatGPT not perfect with the letters still, but is something that everyone is thinking about. And then when we start to discuss, then we started saying that, okay, and what are going to be the use cases? How are people going to use this? We will just make it available, and then what? Then nobody knows. So that's where we start to expand to what kind of use cases will you want to use it for. And a very sudden realization is that what we want to use it for is to access our own internal database, or internal knowledge system, or internal things. Or if make ChatGPT search for us, like preparing for a sales pitch, and then make a quick search. And then comes the realization that, okay, what really is a large language model from the enterprise perspective? That it's not a search engine, it's not a document search, it has capabilities of going through a lot of text, but you have to build a whole bunch of stuff around it so that it would be able to do this. And what I see the real competition is happening between organizations is this capability of how am I integrating all of this stuff that are around ChatGPT so that it would be useful. So an analogy that we usually use for this is that the large language model is like a central electric engine. What we use as chat.openai.com, and everyone thinks as ChatGPT, is that it's like an electric car. So it's going to power a wheel, and it has a specific kind of interface. This is the interface. But an electric engine is the same electric engine that is powering your washing machine, and your hairdryer, and your vacuum cleaner, and a lot of stuff. So it's not really the electric car that I have to think of. It's how am I using the capability of a potentially available electric engine, and then what are the tools, what are all of my home appliances that I would like it to power. And it's a very, very different thing than thinking about how to drive an electric car. Okay? So the width is what, when we realize that, yes, here I guess everybody knows that large language models have a context window, and that's the key magic domain, that how are you going to manage the context window with all the things that you want to push into the large language model so that it would give you good results, either from internal document searches or external search engines, and that it is going to have to play with other tools. And the key capability of large language models, besides being able to summarize or give you chats, is the capability of using other tools so that it would have the compensation to its shortfalls. So large language models are just large language models. We have closed source, we have open source. You can have ones that you can fence around with Llama 2 and Falcon and all of the things that are coming up on and on and on. We need an interface for that, right? We need an app that is going to be integrating that capability. It can be something like chat.openai.com, or there are tools that are leveraging this capability just because large language models exist, like copy.ai or finchat.io, that are specialized in specific domains. And this is one big use case, that I am creating maybe an internal company, an internal app that is leveraging the capability of a large language model. The other big paradigm is to say that I have existing applications and I want to power it up with a large language model. So I have a CRM, or I have a document management system, then I want to plug it in so that it would extend the search capability, the interpretation capability, the process management capability. The key difference between the two is that with the integration, someone does not have to go to another system to be able to learn, to be able to use it, and then they're not going to forget it. And it's very, as dumb as it sounds, this might be the difference between usage and not usage. If it's in my face, in the everyday work of every app that I'm using, I'm going to just hit the button. That's the co-pilot thinking, right? If I have to have to go to a new app, if I'm a customer service agent and I have 5 apps that I have to use already and I have to have a 6th one, I'm not gonna open it, even though if it would gain some efficiencies. So I'm just shifting the difficulty of implementation from technology to organizational, because I have to make the people, teach the people, create KPIs that please use this because then you're going to be more efficient. But just having an app that powers the large language model is not enough. What we need is that we have to give it tools that where it's not good in my documents and not good in my CRM, not good in the internet search as a large language model, but it can play together with them. So I can give it access to a file management system, a browser, calculators, or specific apps like Mail or Google Ads or these kind of things. So this is where really the thing starts to boom with the companies that, geez, how many applications I could have. I could have all the document searches, or I could have in the process of my sales process of bidding, that there's something coming up, then I can build on top of that. And then here is the big realization that it's not enough to have tools, to have large language models, to have apps. In every case, I have to have an orchestration that how am I going to know if a specific prompt should be answered by just a large language model, or should I browse it? Should I browse it in the internet, or should I browse it in my internal document base? Or should I first browse it in my document base and then go to my CRM and then do a query, write myself a query? We all know code interpreter and now the advanced data analytics function and the alike are just breaking these tasks down into subtasks that can be executed, but someone has to figure out that what are the tasks that have to be executed. It's a non-trivial problem. And as we go into scale of the width of the potential applications, this becomes even more hard. There are very simple in-app orchestrations, like when we use Bing for search. It does this kind of orchestration that evaluates every query, that should I just write an email for you because you asked it, or should I search something for the internet, and then how do I do that? How do I iterate if it's good or not? On the other end, the AutoGPT does exactly this, right? So it goes that, and all of the AutoGPT kind of things, that it gets complex tasks, and it creates the first tasks to break it down into subtasks that can be either executed by a tool, either executed by a large language model, but it has to be broken down into subtasks, or I can do it manually with LongChain or BotPress or these kind of things that I create this kind of chain of thinking. So when we realize that there is this total width, then okay, let's take a step back. What is the most pragmatic first version? The first version is that, okay, let's integrate my large language model with an internal search that I can give access to internal websites, policies, guides, error tickets, these kind of things. So try to have a fenced version of accessing my data set to be able to do that. And on top of that, I can create a chat.mycompany.com thing that, okay, this is going to be somehow helpful. Suppose we have this. Then how do I know what my people would like to use this for? This is where the processes come in. That how do I build a process of collecting the potential use cases, evaluating which one I'm going to serve, and then providing the technology for that specific use case. You would have to upload this, test if it's good enough, create an interface, create a choice if that you would access this kind of flow. And then check if people are using it. From a business perspective, the technology does not bring value. People using technology is going to bring value. So just providing technology is not going to be enough. So how we did this, sorry, this was a little overwhelming. We defined this kind of 3A type of use cases. And what we usually do is that we provide a workshop for internal stakeholders and then say that please try to think of ways you could use, now that you understand how large language models work, ways you could use large language models-based use cases that fall into these three categories. It's a simple answer that you just copy a text into the context window. Here is the email, please provide an answer. Or here is the ticket, what could be the solution? Or please give me some campaign ideas. This is simply the CHGPT kind of usage. The second layer, the augmentation, is that I want to plug it into one of my existing systems, into my Salesforce or any other CRM system, into my ticketing system, that the people who are used to use those systems have a new window that, hey, now I can click on this and it is going to create something. And in the background, I can hide a very big process of, okay, it's going to, let's say, a button for, I want to have a quick analysis for this client I'm going to prepare. And then in the background, I can create a process that, okay, first search the internet. Are there any news about this company / specific client? Search my internal CRM. What do we know about them from previous things? And then go on go through the different steps. And at the end, I give a summary that what you should know about this client before you go to their doorstep. This is from the perspective of the user. This is just one button. But to be able to provide this is a whole bunch of things. And then the third layer is the automate, is when I use all of the capabilities of large language models to go through a specific process. That, okay, here's an incoming email. Please extract all of the important information for them, put it into the CRM, and then send an alert to this and this person. This is the background process of automating something. Because of the large language model capabilities, now I can do that. So this brings an absolute width of things. And then in every case, I have to know that, okay, what is the input? It can be a user input, an uploaded file, an internal knowledge base, which I can have to add an internal search, or an external source, internet search, or an API. What kind of large language model tasks do I want to give it? And then what kind of output, this might be the most important, what kind of output do I have to give to be able to provide this use case? And then maybe I want to have another tool for that. But to integrate it with your internal systems, it's a lot of work. And then the realization when we have a workshop for 20 to 30 people who are domain experts in their fields, they know their stuff, they know their processes, and they start to think that I could use it here, and here, and then here. Okay, so how do I start with that? I have to create some kind of a prioritization idea. How am I going to break down the different tasks that I could serve into a prioritization list? And this is kind of an opportunity canvas that we developed for this, that, okay, for each opportunity that you have in mind, know what is going to be as input, what is going to be the LLM task, what is going to be the output, who is the process, what is the process that we're going to solve, what is the process owner. That's a very important part on the top left, because what usually is happening that IT or some very struggled person who is struggling with HR tickets or HR not answering my queries comes up with the idea that, hey, we should do something for the HR, the chatbot. But the owner of that should be HR. And if they're not interested, then this is not a good use case. Okay, so the sufferer part is not always enough. You have to have the owner part as well. Who is the typical user? What is the opportunity? What is the business impact? I think that's also very important. And as we process with these 3 or 4 companies that I'm working with, this becomes even more and more important. How am I going to measure the impact of the implementation? And it's very not trivial. And then how do I assess the complexity? It has a data complexity. Do I access the data? Is there data about that? So is the internal policy about HR available? Or are there 5 documents and they're kind of contradictory, and I know that there is an HR person who knows that in this case only this document matters. If the data is not like that I can't access it, it's a high complexity. Technology, the more things you want to have, API connections, the more mature LLM tasks, then it's the more complex. The organizational complexity is very important, that how are you going to implement it? People have to learn. Do they have to change their processes? Do they have to find other ways to manage this? And the governance, that is it dealing with ethical issues, privacy issues, security issues. So we try to give this kind of thing. It's not filled out in this format. It's usually on Excel, and they have lists of 20 to 100 rows about these, that, okay, all of these are potentials. So I want to evaluate them and then find the ones that I can easily serve, so that I can create the actual capability of the organization that they should start doing these. So we have the processes of how to trains and planes at the same time. Very good. The other big thing that we realized is that the key organizational capability of managing this is not the technological capability. It is very easy to use, right? A little prompt engineering helps, but if you really bring it up, build it up in the background in a process, then it's going to be fine. The key capability is transforming this ability into business needs. So you have to have a width of skills that you can educate in-house, who are going to be your promoters across the organization. Because of the width of use cases and then how fast this is evolving, we identified these 5 roles that we usually have in organizations. Of course, we need AI architects who can understand that, should I buy an LLM? Should I bring it down? Should I have an open source? How should I stick it together with my internal systems? How should I stick it together with the search engines? Should it be cognitive search or should it be something else? This is more of the technical stuff. But then there are other roles that we need so that this was turned into return on investment. There are these 3, that the AI business partner, the AI ambassador, and the AI key user are very important. The AI business partner is more of a person who just collects all of the input and then is capable of educating the people and owning the process of the use case collection. Not the individual business cases, but how am I managing the width of this? How am I building the processes? How am I building KPIs that I'm going to do through the, so that I see that there are more and more use cases? And then also that, how do I say go or no go for a specific thing from a business perspective? So he or she is more of the integrator on an organizational level. We identified that there is a very interesting role that we call the AI ambassador. We see that CHGPT is so widespread as technology that in every organization there are specific people who already use this. Usually they're in the shadows. In a lot of organizations, this is either forbidden or I don't look there, you can use it kind of things, but definitely not encouraged if I don't have the policy. And then since organizations move slow, it's hard to define the policies. So finding the people who are already having a lot of energy in these domains is a key task. Defining a role for them, that you can be the AI ambassador in our organization. I want to upskill you and then channel your energy into the organizational level effectiveness is, I think, one of the most important things that you can do. That this kind of channeling is a very different thing than any other technology that we had before. In all of the other technologies, SAP, CRM integrations, these kind of things, what we had is that we knew that this is going to be somehow useful, so I have to push it through the organization. In this case, this is very different because there are a lot of people who would be interested in using this. They just don't have the authority and the toolkit where they can use this safely. So from the organizational, the leadership mindset, this is the channeling rather than as education stuff. And then finding these people is a very different task than to educating everyone. So they can be people who are conveying the needs, who can inspire immediate environments, and for this, they can have beta access for a lot of stuff that the technology part is developing. So they can play around with stuff that are important already, or that are there already, that is going to be slowly rolled out. And we're going to come back to this at the red button problem. And then there's the AI key user who is saying that, okay, you can still have some, when it's already in safe beta mode, you can have access if you have fulfilled some education about how to use this. Again, because of the big red button problem. And of course, when we want to roll it out to an organization, to a bank who has 10,000 employees, let's say, and maybe even roll it out to the customer base, I really, really want to make sure that it's working properly. And making sure that a large language model is working properly is not an easy task. Not an easy task, even on the technological level, but from a perspective of someone who is, let's say, from security, or I'm the head of HR, and I have no clue about what these models are doing, but I hear it from the news that it's hallucinating. So what if it's hallucinating something to my employees that now you can have promotions because you are white? We know that this is not a realistic use case, but how would he know, or how would she know? So transforming the problem of how do I give a go for a specific domain of users for a specific use case is one of the biggest challenge that we have in large organizations. And what we found out is, we call this the red button problem, that whenever we want to allow a use case to roll out in the organization, then there are a lot of hands who has to push the same button at the same time. If this is a bank, it has to be security, it has to be compliance, it has to be the business owner, it has to be the technical integration, and it's always a mapping task that who are going to be the stakeholders who have to push it at the same time. And that what we experience is that if there are a few people missing, for example, compliance, then it's not pushed. And no matter how much work you put into fantastic technical integration and fantastic upskilling, the whole thing is going to be lagging. And then you're just, oh shit, why didn't I think of this earlier? So the red button problem is a big problem. The way we think it has to be tackled is risk assessment. That finding the use cases that has the lowest risks, meaning that it needs the least amount of hands for a button, right? Because it does not really matter. What raises risks? There are three main raises. Data. The best if I'm playing with an agent that has only openly available data. So my website. If I can make a bot that can search on my website, it's already very useful, but no data complexity, right? The second layer is non-personal data. I might have internal policies for HR, for my product description, for blah, blah, blah. Maybe a little sensitive from the business perspective, but at least GDPR people are not coming to my head, right? And then there is the personal/sensitive data. Suppose I want to have a chatbot for my banking clients that, okay, I am going to search for your transaction history, create an analysis for you, and then suggest you what you should buy next. That's tough, right? That's going to be having a lot of personal data stuff. On the technical part, the easiest if you just use the large language model capabilities. The next is when you have large language models combined with an internal search. And the toughest is if you want to integrate it with CRM, if you want to integrate it with SAP, with your internal whatever things, connecting with APIs, a lot of APIs, and then the breaking down of the task of serving a specific prompt becomes very, very hard. Plugging in, hard already. But there is the orchestration problem all the time. And then the third dimension is that the process complexity. If I want to support internal processes like IT ticketing, again, no harm done. The second is when I'm supporting an internal customer. Yes, an internal customer. So who is supporting my client, my customers? So I am supporting the customer agent, not directly the customer. And of course, the toughest is to support the customer because I have to be very, very sure to do that. So the easiest is to start here, but usually this blue zone is still a safe zone. And having this kind of risk and criteria, that how can I find the kind of technologies that I can release to what kind of people, right? So these were more of the what use cases that I serve here. And then this is the who is going to use it. So as we go down on the user side, I think this is a very important thing that we realized in the past few weeks, that there are different levels of AI skills that my people could have in, okay, how am I'm training an AI ambassador very heavily, that, okay, now you know how to collect use cases, what are the limitations, how to overcome them, how to evaluate use cases, you know, all this. And then you have the AI key users. We realized that the AI key users have two important types. One who is using it in their own domain, and the other who is using it out of their domain. An own domain would be that if I am a customer service agent who is answering the calls, my responsibility is that I know where to search in all of the PDFs or product descriptions or internal wikis or da-da-da-da-da. I have the domain expertise of finding stuff. These people, if they have an advanced search capability that provides an answer, are capable of assessing if that was right. That's their job. If I gave it to someone else, then it would be the responsibility of the technology to assess if what I bring to you is right. And since we know from the technology that if it's a search / plus LLM combination, then the search, did I find the right paragraph that I gave to the LLM, and the LLM, did it extract the right information and combine it well, can both go wrong. It's very hard to evaluate how good the end result is. So what we realized is that the obvious green zone is that for the AI ambassador, a ChatGPT kind of thing that is only for them, that it's create me a campaign idea and I give you the context. Document search, we saw that it's only a green zone if I open it up to people who know how to overrule from the domain. And it's a very non-trivial thing. And then for anyone else, and then for any employee, and who didn't even add the customers, it's getting more and more red. And the big unknown, and as I see is unfolding in a lot of organization, is the testing problem. So how do I test the end result of the LLMs? Because if I say that, okay, now I have all of my documents in, so you can ask anything, but does it find the right paragraph? Does it find the right answer? Is it able to combine different things that is obvious for them? I don't know. And then nobody knows how to know. There are technical tooling around this that, okay, creating a breakdown of the tasks, There are more process-oriented tooling for this that we're working on now with some clients to say that, okay, if you have a 10-page long document, take every second page, ask a CHGPT to write me questions that there is an answer for this in this document, write the answer, and then put that original answer or question into a big document search kind of thing, and then compare the two things. This is more transparent for someone who's coming from the business perspective, but it is not robust. So this kind of robustness, and it's very exciting to see that globally, the OECD, the ISO are working on these principles that what do we mean by robustness and trustworthiness on the domains of AIs is a very non-trivial thing. So just to note that, can you think of use cases where you know how to test it? Again, that's going to be a lot quicker drill down. So what I see in these domains is that all of these are in the experimentation phase. Okay, so these tools as the depth are serving that how do I start experimentation and then going towards implementation. We're nowhere near of creating a continuous adaptation, but knowing that there are other levels that we would like to reach is stretching the capabilities of the organization to implement it. And finally, I'd like to invite you to a little thought experiment, because one of the big things that I see in organizations, the first thing that, is it going to take my job? And what I usually say is that let us imagine a world where tomorrow when we wake up, then everything's price have dropped to 10%. Not by 10%, but to 10%. Okay? Serious price drop. So all the fuel, all the cinema, all the cars, all the education, all the travel, everything is now costing 10% of what it costed yesterday. If we imagine this a little bit, how many of you are thinking of how much savings am I going to do? Most people are not thinking about savings. They start to think that I'm going to have another electric bike. I'm going to go to private school. I'm going to go to cinema or eat out every week. So the main message is that if something is cheaper, we're not having the same standards. We're not saving. We're not sending people away. Our needs as humanity is really endless. The key question is that how am I able to find the new needs that we can serve with the same amount of people if a lot of the things that we do are helped out with these technologies. And this is not the first, this kind of price drop that we have seen. If we go back to marketing, there's a creation, there is a testing, there is a managing. In the first phase, the internet can be very well seen as the price of distribution dropped to almost zero. We did not communicate the same amount and fired everyone, right? We communicated a lot more. We realized that how much we can do more with that. The deep learning revolution starting from 2012 made the price of prediction drop to almost zero. We're not creating personas and then trying to think of what they are going to be interested in. We just give it to the AI, test it out, manage 1,000 personas, a lot more personalization. And of course today, what we have is that the price of creation is dropping to zero. This does not mean that creative people are just going to be out of their jobs. And then we're going to do the same thing, but with a lot less people. We're going to figure out ways that how much more value can we create with the technologies that are streamlining a lot of processes if we can go through all of the efficiency gains that we can produce with organizations. So I think we're all familiar with this quote. This is quite widespread, that AI is not going to take your job. A human using AI will. And the flip side of this is that AI is not creating value in an organization. And this is a very, very important thing that people tend to forget because we impersonate AI. AI is not creating value. People using AI are creating value. Thank you very much for your attention.
Don't run away, because we have some questions.
Ah, great.
You still have 5 minutes for the questions, so I would like to encourage you guys to use the Slido, please. So I have one here to start with from Csaba. Many organizations are stuck at stage 1.5, pretending AI by mentioning it in the strategy since it sounds sexy. Any suggestion how to overcome the bottom-up?
From the bottom up?
This bottom-up, how to overcome this?
I think that, yes, this is a very fake it till you make it kind of situation that, that we're mentioning it. But I think that the big bottleneck here is that they think that this is going to be a huge investment. And then, okay, we are going to just roll out the things that we have, and then we have to change everything. So yes, at least we should write it up on the wall that this is going to be AI, that we're going to be working. But showing specific tools that can deliver value very easily can start this kind of going into the organization method. And I've seen that a lot, that had this kind of coming from the top down, I have to have an AI strategy. And then let's start with 6 zeros at least, right? So, but showing a lot of analogies of what AI could do in other companies or what specific use cases it have in customer service, in sales, in manufacturing, they realize that, oh, this is not SAP implementation. This is tooling that I can give this and this. So with the analogy of the electricity, I'm not going to go and build a generator for myself. I have a torch and I can use it for a corner.
Nice analogy. So please shoot some questions. In the meantime, we also had in my company an AI workshop, and we figured out that the biggest challenge of our software development company can be that, okay, if we use AI for software development, then how can we have seniors in the future if we use AI for junior jobs? What is your take on that topic?
I think that everyone is promoted, right? So the junior is going to be the meteor because they have a lot of junior AI coders at hand with AI codecs and so on. And then the people who are architects are not going to be having to worry about, okay, all of these lower level things. And then the more senior a person is, the closer they are to actual value creation for a client, not solving a technical problem. Mm-hmm. And I think this kind of mindset of how do I solve new problems that I can solve with my organization is totally not addressed with AI and cannot be addressed because it's a human-human relationship, okay? Or a person who is creating these new capabilities.
So promotion for everyone who's a software developer here.
Exactly. Congrats.
Okay. Maybe 2 more questions.
Okay.
Safety barriers, human in the loop, and so on. Which are your best practice to use Gen AI in a responsible way at enterprise level?
This is a tough one. This is what I meant with the safety, that the best practice that I see on a practical level and not on the OECD level is that if you find the organizational build-up around a specific use case, that you're not trying to solve it technically, but the way you're going to solve it is you're going to solve a dumb person in your organization with processes, right? So not every person is very smart in your organization. There are people who are less smart, but you have processes and then checks and controls on top of that. This black box, right? That's also a black box. But we have controls on top of that we developed on an organizational level. We try to do this technically, and I think there are coming up more and more things that we should do technically. But on an organizational level, I can say that whoever this and this certificate, who can evaluate if this is good. And I think that UX is going to have a huge impact on this, that how am I presenting the things that AI is suggesting as the ground truth, or just trying to trigger the person into overruling it. When it's 99% right, it means that every one of 100 that's wrong. You have to spot that, even though if you're just evaluating it as right.
That sounds good. And now this is the end of the questions. So guys, if you have any more questions, please find Gergely here at our Compass conference. And I have a little present for you. Actually, that's you. So a nice design.
Thank you.
And also some tea for the cold nights.
Okay,
and
thank you.
Another round of applause, please, to Gergely Szertics for his presentation.